Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
Sati, would you say you fuel like an athlete or do you diet?
100% like an athlete.
Okay. All right.
No doubt.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, well, this is a topic that I thought could be good because it has come up a lot for me as I've been looking at different nutrition content online and thinking about our approach to nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
But the meaning for myself is that I pay attention to my nutrition. I choose certain foods. I track my nutrition, not for the purpose of losing weight, but for the purpose of fueling my energy needs and making sure I have good training outcomes.
Okay. When did you really think about that? When did you start thinking about that?
I have really been thinking about it a lot more over the course of the last year since you and I have been working together on my nutrition. And what kickstarted it for me was that I was going through a period of having a lot of low energy and even dizziness spells, which turned out to be related to anemia, which I'm now taking care of. But I do think that an additional part of the equation was that I was just under fueling for my energy needs, and my body had just adapted to what it had been given to work with, but it wasn't in an optimal state. And because I wasn't really tracking my calories, and I tend to go into really focused periods of work where I sort of forget to eat for a while, I just was ending up with lower calorie amounts during the day. And so when you and I started working on my nutrition and I started really intentionally eating certain amounts of calories for the purpose of getting my energy back and being stronger and feeling better, I just noticed what a huge impact that made on myself. And I realized how if I would post something online about what I was eating or talk about it with people, the types of conversations I was having with people were not really getting that piece of it. And I realized that when you talk about your food with your girlfriends or your friends or in just a normal cultural setting, as people do talk about their food, the majority of people were approaching nutrition topics from the perspective of, oh, how do I get skinny? How do I lose weight? Or how do I be healthy? But not really thinking about it from the perspective of, what do I actually need to eat so that I can actually do what I want to do with my body?
Yeah, that happens a lot. And so what are some of like the pillars to your day that you have to like consider when you like say, okay, this is what I need to do to eat more like an athlete versus a dieter?
3 things, which I'm sure will come as no surprise to people who've been following along. But the first one is eating regularly throughout the day. I don't skip breakfast. I eat a pretty hearty breakfast because I train typically in the morning, and I know that I need to go into training with a certain amount of fuel in my body. I also start to feel dizzy if I skip too much food before going into like Olympic lifting. Like I can really tell if I haven't eaten enough carbs for breakfast, for example. So really paying attention to eating throughout the day, regular meals, regular snacks, not going too long between eating so that I have a good amount of energy throughout the day. And also having protein and carbs at every meal and really eating very intentional amounts of both protein and carbs, which are, I think, higher, especially than the average woman eats. A lot of women think that like 100 grams of protein is just like so much. And I'm like I've eaten 130 to 150 a day for some time now. So lots of protein, more than one might think. And also I know that people feel like a high carb approach is an unusual one, but I have gone to pretty high carbs in my nutrition, and that's been a game changer for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Yeah, I think the dieting culture and the narrative around how to eat in dieting culture, I mean, it's not all bad. I mean, there's plenty of good stuff out there.
Sure.
And, you know, a lot of it is really built around and geared towards a population of people that don't train. And so I've always we've talked about it a lot, but like the difference between I train versus I get exercise in, or I'm active. Exercise and activity are fantastic, and you can build good. You can improve health markers. You can even improve your fitness level through exercise and general activity. But I think one of the key differences is like somebody who approaches their movement more as like exercise and activity, they see it as a tool to help fit the diet culture narrative, which is you got to burn more calories, you got to eat fewer calories. So exercise and activity are this like tool for burning calories. And then all of the conversation around diet is about how can I remove calories from my diet in ideally smart, sustainable ways, right? So that is dieting in a nutshell, is exercise, activity, and then removing calories.
Right. And that's the piece I forgot to mention as well, which is that I'm intentionally eating as much as I can to maintain a good body composition and energy and performance. Yeah. I'm not trying to cut out calories.
Yeah. So that's one side. And then the athlete side is, okay, this is somebody who purposefully goes into some aspect of their fitness, their training, to try and get the favorable fitness outcome of improved cardiovascular fitness, measurable muscle mass, measurable strength. Like, I'm in the gym, I'm following a training program because I want to build muscle. I'm in the gym and I'm following a training program because I want to get stronger. I'm in the gym, or I'm out on the track, or I'm out on the thing, because I want to build my aerobic capacity and I want to be able to run faster for the high rocks or whatever, right? So you're an athlete. Like, I don't want to make that like an exclusive club, but like that's what athletes do. They train to try and get stronger, fitter, faster, play their sport better, right? So there's a clear goal. And when you look at that, it's not about how much did I do, it's how effective was the thing that I did. Or somebody over in the diet culture and, conversation is how many calories did I burn? Did I go and like they're focusing on the wearable, like how many calories did I burn in that boot camp class, and how many, it's very much like how much energy did I burn? I want to burn more. The more energy I burn, the better, because then I'm going to get more calories to either eat or more fat loss or whatever. Whereas over on the other camp, it should be, what's the least I can do to get stronger? And then when I've exhausted that, then I'm going to add more so I can get stronger. And like, you just play the game of trying to improve your actual outcomes that you're chasing. And so that's what training should be about. So that's how you move and approach training. And then for eating on the training side, eating like an athlete, then in pretty much every sport that there is, just about, or every physical training activity you're doing, generally you perform better when you have a high amount of muscle mass relative to how much body fat you have in your body. You can think of examples where like that's not true. It's like, well, a sumo wrestler needs to have a lot of body fat. They need a lot of body mass.
Super heavy Olympic lifter.
Super heavyweight Olympic lifter. However, you will see that they've done studies on this, that like even in weight class, sports, like the people who have a higher amount of muscle mass for their overall body weight perform better or have the greater capacity to perform well. And, like high level athletes in most sports, like they tend to have relatively lean body composition. So it's favorable to get as much, muscle tissue or lean tissue, because that's the functional tissue, and as little body fat as you can, without going so low on your body fat that you can't recover and your hormones get jacked up. So there's like a sweet spot, but I don't see everyday folks being like, oh man, that chiseled looking sprinter has too much body fat, or that person who's like an athletic looking body has too much body. It's like, oh, I want to have that kind of muscle. I want to have that shape. So when you eat to perform like that, then if you have the mentality of how do I get the least amount of calories in, and that's how you structure and frame everything, then you're very likely to underperform in your training. You need to eat plenty of nutrients, plenty of protein, plenty of carbohydrates, enough fat so that you can fuel best training outcomes. If you fuel the training properly, and then you fuel the recovery properly, then each time you come back to train, you train with more intensity, you train with greater strength, you train with greater skill, with better energy, and you continue to ramp that cycle up. So that's how I kind of differentiate the two. And, where do you belong? Like what should you be focused on? If you have a lot of body fat to lose and you've never really even learned anything about nutrition, should you jump right into eating like an athlete, or should you focus more on diet culture, frameworks? How about if you've been going to the gym for a long time and you've still never done nutrition coaching? Like, where do you go? And this is kind of how this is how I think about breaking the two up for people. It's like one kind of has to come before the other in a way, for most people that we work with. Because when you start, like, the idea of understanding food and energy expenditure, the energy in versus energy out equation, is a pretty important thing to master, or at least get a good grasp of, before you start making big changes and trying to like optimize performance outcomes.
Totally agree.
So when people are like, I want to lose body fat, I'm like, okay, well, let's simplify this equation as much as possible so that you can learn what are the things that your body needs to, lose body fat, and what do you actually need to do from an exercise and even somewhat of a training perspective to optimize for fat loss and muscle mass. So we'll teach that. And then at some point, people will lean out and they'll get leaner and their body composition will be more favorable, and they're starting to enjoy their training more, and they're like, I want to get stronger. I want to build more muscle. So it's like, okay, now we're no longer in this mindset of trying to get less calories and move more. We have to shift you into thinking about how to fuel for training outcomes. And it's like when I'll take, a typical male, this happens for both male and female, but I'm thinking of like, one of my platinum male clients who comes in the first 3 to 4 months, we teach them, or maybe it's the first 3 to 6 months. It's like, we're going to go through a body fat cut. Like, we're going to cut your body fat off your body. We're going to recomposition you. And we're going to do that by really helping you understand how to measure the food that's coming in and the activity that you're doing each day. And we're going to build a foundation of resistance training in there, but we're really manipulating those numbers so that we can shed body fat and maintain as much muscle as possible by getting you enough protein and making sure you're lifting a few days a week. And so over the course of 4 months, drop 20 pounds of body fat. Starting to get lean, maybe seeing your abdominal muscles for the first time, loving it. Okay, I think I got this figured out. It's like, well, you got that figured out, but now if you want to not come back to this every year, we need to transition you and teach you how to train and fuel like an athlete, which means we're going to start to build muscle. We're going to do a lean building phase for the next 6 to 12 months to show you how we train with a focus on fueling with enough energy to maximize those training outcomes so you can build more muscle. And it's like, when people say like, gosh, like you seem to be able to eat all these different types of foods, and like, how did you get to the point where you had, the flexibility that you have? It's like, well, because I did the diet culture thing several times in my life, but then I did the train and fuel like an athlete for a long time. And it helped me build up this really big capacity to handle not just movement, but calories. It's like, so my maintenance calories might be at 3,500, whereas somebody's like, oh, I've been on this 1,700 calorie a day diet for the last 2 years because I that's what I used to get lean, and then I never really learned how to do it another way. It's like, oh, well, you're missing a whole way of approaching, dieting and nutrition to fuel yourself, where you can eat more and then you can get more out of your actual fitness and your training and your energy output every single day.
Yeah. I was just thinking back to my own journey of learning about nutrition, and there's so much about that is also tied to identity and starting to see yourself in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that when I first started doing CrossFit or even functional bodybuilding, I remember when I first started working here, I would just buy like the cheapest old leggings and old t-shirts because I was like, I'm not an athlete, or like in CrossFit class when they'd be like, athletes, like go to your bars, I'd be like, who's an athlete? Like, I'm not an athlete,
Yeah.
And I think that fed into my mentality of being resistant to tracking my food for a long time, because I was like, I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm fine. I feel fine with how I look. So why would I track my nutrition, or like, why would I try to eat more or do all these extra steps? And so I think there is a really natural evolution that has to happen for people to first learn that by tracking and by taking control of your nutrition, you can start to successfully just change your body, period, in whatever way that you're attempting to at the moment. And then starting to embrace the concept, like you say, of, oh, I want to now build muscle. I want to feel strong. I want to do this thing right and do it in a way where I can come back to it year after year and not get off track and not set myself up for this really low amount of calories to try to hang on to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a, that process, if you really want to learn it and really engage in it, there's no set timeline for how long it can take, but I can say with confidence that I started taking on platinum coaching clients about 1.5 years ago. And I have a couple people that were early adopters with me who are getting to a point now where I'm like, oh, you get it. Like, you've learned it. Like, you've gone through the cutting phase, you've gone through the lean bulking phase, like, how to approach training correctly. Like, it's kind of the first couple clients where I'm like, oh, like, I can actually kind of send you on your way, and you have this thing. Like, will you ever fall off at some point? Sure. Life gets crazy. Like, you run up against unexpected obstacles and you lose your way in things. But I'm like, oh, well, you've learned how to manage your energy balance, and then you learn how to manipulate that foundation through, training and eating like an athlete. And now you have the tools to kind of take this wherever you want to go. And you don't need me to, check your, do check-ins every single week to make sure that you're grasping the concepts. That's really cool to see. I mean, that makes me so confident in the system and the education process and what we're doing. But it's also like, oh, I can actually get people close to having the knowledge base and the systems that I get to use in myself, and I have for a long time, to feel like, oh, this isn't a mystery, and I'm not like, navigating blind through some complicated, confusing world of training and nutrition that seems to always have a different outcome every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. I think another piece to this is that the way that we coach eating like a dieter, let's just call it, also has some differences to, I think, what most people coach. And the one that comes to mind is that carbs have a place in cutting as well as bulking, or cutting as well as fueling for performance, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like traditional diet culture is just like calories and activity, like it's just calories in, calories out. Like, that's the whole game. And that's actually true, and it can absolutely work if you really can navigate that well. Now, you could go eat McDonald's every day and be in a calorie deficit, and you could sit on a couch all day and you could still be in a calorie deficit and lose body fat. It's possible. It's extremely hard, right, to do that. Why? Because if you're not moving, if you're sedentary, you don't get a lot of calories. at a baseline. So to go into a deficit, you have to eat very little, and then eating McDonald's, it's like high calorie density food. So, you're probably going to eat like half of a Happy Meal, and
Two chicken nuggets.
Hit 2 chicken nuggets and half of a small fry, and you're going to be there, right? But it's still possible. So then every strategy, every tool, every educational piece out there on nutrition in that diet culture is just aimed at helping you do that whole concept more easily. So to start with, like, diet culture is focused on weight loss, not on fat loss. That's one big difference, right? Fat loss means you lose body fat, which is the storage depot of energy on your body. You don't want to lose muscle because that's functional tissue. That's what gives your body shape. It's what gives you strength. It's what gives you metabolism. So if you just lose weight, you might lose muscle and fat. If you just lose fat, then guess what? You're going to end up much happier at the end. So if you go from like old school diet culture to like new school diet culture, it's, get into a calorie deficit, but make sure you eat plenty of protein and make sure you resistance train, and you do both of those things very consistently and effectively. Then you'll get a really great body composition change and outcome. You'll be strong, healthy, and fit, and and so forth. The other part is that, in traditional diet culture, it's like, well, what are the easiest foods to cut out that will help you remove calories? Well, it's just sort of labeling anything that is generally high calorie and processed as bad and off the table, which most people start to label as carbohydrates, like, pizza, bread, pasta, sandwiches, like all of the things. Like, okay, there's way too many carbs in that, so I'm not going to have any carbs. I got to cut all that stuff out. And then that unfortunately bleeds into talking about carbs as like an entire category of food, which, like, oatmeal is a carb, beans are a carb, fruits are carbs, vegetables are, can be carbohydrate rich. Like, so we're now saying that none of those things are good. It's like people get confused because diet culture is just like, what's the easiest thing to kind of get rid of that will help people stay in weight maintenance? Well, like processed, like, food at the store that's packaged and carbohydrate rich with a bunch of oils and a bunch of fat in it. Like, that's probably a good thing to, cut out if you are relatively sedentary, you're not moving a lot, and you don't have a lot of calories in your day to like budget for food, for your meals. Cut that stuff out. That's a good idea. But some carbohydrates are very nutrient dense. They don't have too many calories, and for every calorie that they bring to the table, they also bring a pretty high degree of fullness factor. Like, they make you feel full, so you don't want to eat more of them. Whereas, like, I could eat 3 donuts in a sitting, no problem. But
Same.
like, you give me 3 big boiled potatoes, that's gonna be about a third of the calories as the donuts, and it's gonna make me feel pretty full for quite a while, which is a win if you're trying to not eat as much over the course of a day. So it's like, okay, well, let's make sure we don't just throw every carbohydrate out. Let's focus on the carbohydrates that really are good. And because we're also focused on resistance training as now the new age diet culture, which is like you have to resistance train to maintain your muscle, then we need carbohydrates to make sure that resistance training is as effective as it could be. Because you can lift weights without eating carbohydrates, but if you lift weights, eat enough protein, and have a steady dose of carbohydrates coming from sources that make you feel full, then you get a big benefit out of that. That makes the whole process even more effective. So it's making sure that we're, kind of evolving and upgrading what this traditional diet culture mentality is, to say, well, new age diet culture is this. It's find a way to eat in a calorie deficit, but don't reduce your protein beyond or below like the critical threshold. Make sure that you're resistance training, minimum 2, but ideally 3 or 4 times per week. And then supply your muscles with enough carbohydrates so that they can really get the most out of those 3 to 4 training sessions a week that you're doing, so you can get strong and you can build more muscle. And that way, when you lose the body fat, you look as as good as you want to look. You're lean and well muscled, and you also feel really strong in life. So those are the parameters that we would focus on, as opposed to just, let's say it's like the Jenny Craig model where you're just counting points every day, and the points are purely based on calories. It's like calories, points, you're just counting calories. And that worked. It worked for people to help them lose weight, but it ultimately didn't help them keep it off because they didn't solve the muscle mass problem, which is now central to how we all are talking in this community about changing people's relationship to food, their health outcomes, their body. And now more and more you hear, well, muscle is this thing that's critical to longevity and to health. So yes, we want to even get more focused on that. And so then when we move from this like new age diet culture paradigm, and then we talk about training like an athlete, the only real shift from going from there to training like an athlete is you don't want to be in a calorie deficit forever. You want to actually eat more food, because that's going to make your training more effective. It's help you build, more strength and have more fitness and burn more calories in a day, so that you have more freedom to eat more stuff. It's like, if you can eat, a slice of pizza or a couple, a piece of twice a week, and you have the calorie budget to do that, then that's an ideal outcome for a lot of people, because they're like, yeah, I want to be entertained by food as well. And you can evolve to that, so long as you recognize that, like, we did this to lose body fat, to recomposition, and to learn a foundation. And now you're beyond that, where we're going to actually build you back up, and we're going to do it thoughtfully. It's not diet, and then do it so hard and aggressively that everything goes out the window at the end. It's like, no, you just keep evolving, keep learning, and you keep taking those same principles and you build upon it for the future.
Yeah. This is something I've been thinking a lot about as I've been going through perimenopause and talking with a lot of our clients who are in perimenopause. And I feel like we were talking earlier in an episode about self-experimentation, but this is a self-experiment that I would love more scientific data on. But I know that so many women have a hard time managing body weight in menopause. And I've seen for myself that my weight has gone up and down from different circumstances that I've been in, being busier with work and cutting back a little bit on training and this and that. And you and I work together on nutrition. And so I have gone through periods when I've intentionally reduced my calories because I've felt like my body weight is kind of going over what would be my ideal. And so the calories get cut back, but then something happens where I can feel through the combination of the food choices I'm making, just the energy balance that I'm in with training and the activity that I'm doing day to day with my walking and my resistance training and all of that coming together, there's actually a feeling where I can sense my metabolism adapting to that. And then it starts to show in the data as well, with my progress photos and with my body weight consistently week after week. And then I feel like that's where, if I were in diet culture, most coaches would be like, great, the level of calories that you're at is working for your body composition right now. Chill. And instead, when you see that, you're like, time to eat more, time to get more carbs, time to fuel back up. And then it's like this process of like revving up my energy needs, my metabolism. And then I have more energy for training and more energy for walking. And so as the calories come up, that's how the body weight stays in the good place, the happy place.
Yeah. I just texted a client who I stopped work with about a month ago, I think. And I was just like, hey, how's your reverse diet going? Because he was like, he had finished up 6 months of work, felt really good about his body composition. And he was like, I just want to, just give me a kind of a roadmap, And it was cool because like a month later, like he's like, I just took these progress photos yesterday. It's like, cool, he reached out and he sent them to me. And I'm like, it's like, dude, you look even better like than your last photos you sent me. And you're up eating 500 more calories per day than you were when we finished this cut. Like, that's insane. That's awesome. That's exactly what, we wanted to see. Like, you're on the path, you're crushing it. So, being able to go through those like periods of like intentionally revving the system back up, reverse dieting. Justin, who comes to the gym, he's just finished a big cut. he's very nervous. He's like, well, what do I do from here? I can't keep eating this. Like, I feel so weak. I feel so depleted. And I'm like, well, we got to add back, we got to add fuel back to the system. And he's like, every time I've ever done that, I always lost all my progress. And I'm like, okay, let's do it methodically. Let's do it with like, clear benchmarks and steps to get there. And so he's starting that process now, and he's, for good reason, nervous. Like, is this going to undo everything that I did? But the alternative is for him to kind of keep crushing his body the way he was, like not crushing his body, but he had gotten to a place where his calorie deficit had started to have a very negative impact on his like mood, energy, sleep, etc.
Yeah.
And I know men that have been stuck in that for 2 years that are like, I am terrified to lose this new body that I worked so hard to get, that they just do that. And a year goes by, 2 years goes by, and they're just like, I just generally have low energy. I'm always low energy. I always feel I'm like, it doesn't have to feel that way.
Yeah. One of the clients we just onboarded was at 1,600 calories a day and wants to lose 10 pounds. And there's something to be done there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this is, this is a topic that's, I tried to give some clear distinctions and definitions, but it's also something that it looks different. Like how each person navigates that looks a little different.
Yeah.
And if you're hearing this conversation today and you are thinking, gosh, like I really haven't learned how to walk this path in a sustainable way. I still have goals that I want to reach in terms of my body composition. Then you might be a good candidate to join our Persist Platinum coaching program. So click the link that you see either in the show notes here on YouTube or in your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you go and book an advisory call with our team to see if this is something that we could help you with.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. See you next time, everyone.
See ya.